I want to go down something you said about the dwindling influence, if not the neutering influence of the United States to have an impact on events here, and the rise of another pole in this BRICS, but specifically in China and Russia. Watch this comment by Xi Jinping that he made as part of this BRICS thing and compare it to the deteriorating view of the United States.
We must uphold the three key principles, namely no expansion of the battlefields, no escalation of hostilities, and no fanning flames, and strive for swift de-escalation of the situation. While the humanitarian situation in Gaza continues to deteriorate, the flames of war have once again been rekindled in Lebanon, and conflicts are escalating among the parties. We must promote an immediate ceasefire and an end to the killing. We must make unremitting efforts toward a comprehensive, just, and lasting resolution of the Palestinian question.
So you have China setting itself up as a peacemaker. And of course, this is not just Johnny come lately. I mean, they actually helped diplomatically bring Iran and Saudi Arabia to resolve many of their conflicts, whatever. But now that you see that while they're advocating a peaceful resolution to all these major wars, all the U.S. seems to be is left into a powerless position of just funding them, while, as you said earlier in this episode, we've seemed to have lost power over Zelensky, or at least to a large extent, and definitely none over Netanyahu. So what do you view as this shifting balance, and what are the ramifications of that over the next 5 or 6 years?
Well, the problem is that the West, generally speaking, the US in particular, but the West in general, has in fact abandoned diplomacy for sanctions. We try to influence the world not through diplomatic relation and talking and dialogue with others, but just with sanctioning people. Sanctions have become the most, let's say, used and not the most effective, but the most used foreign policy tool. And that led to the weaponization of the dollar, the weaponization of trade, the weaponization of tariffs and all that. And as a result, the West has no ability to talk to others and has no leverage anymore. The only leverage we have is sanctions. But again, what we are witnessing right now in the BRICS, I mean, right now the BRICS summit just went over, but what we saw with this summit is precisely the idea of the rest of the world to decouple from the West, and precisely because we were not able to talk to them, we were not able to address them as adults. And today they say, okay, guys, stop, because we are not in a situation where we want to have just a stick and carrot type of relationship. It has to be mutually accepted. It has to be debated. It has to be discussed. We need to, I mean, the UN were designed as a discussion platform, not as a sanctioning platform. And today it is exactly how it is used. As a result, we have lost our credibility, and the rest of the world today is saying, okay, if the West is not able to solve the problems, if their only way to solve problems is to impose sanctions or to have military intervention, then we'll take over. We'll do that on our way, and that will be a better way. So there is no surprise. I mean, China is probably still it's a trade giant today. It's a very important political actor, but probably not as important as the US were. And so China has not taken the position of the US yet. That will come because it has the power of the US has come after World War II, and that was a combination of economic, political, and military power. Now, China has the economic power. It is building up a military power. It is building up a political and diplomatic power. So I think the BRICS are not ready yet
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
take over, but that will come very soon.
But the trends are very clear. And unless the United States does something significant to alter that dynamic and give people a reason not to keep going down that path, it seems to me inevitable that that day will pass where they eventually supersede us in all of these categories.
Absolutely.
Well, that's that's I guess it wants a little bit disheartening, but also somewhat optimistic that if we can find the political will to do some of these hard things, we have plenty of resources, we have plenty of leverage, and we definitely have plenty of power in all these different spheres you're talking about. It's all a matter of how we're willing to use them. And sometimes the best way to use the power is to tell somebody no. And that's
absolutely. I mean, I totally concur with you, and I would just add an ingredient: common sense.
Okay, now that may be going a bridge too far. I don't know. I don't know.
Common sense is an essential ingredient, because we see this conflict. We see in Ukraine. We see in Palestine that, in fact, when we talk about decision making, you and me have used very often the word irrational. And the contrary of irrational is rational or common sense. This is very, very linked together. And that's where we have to come back. That's made the greatness of the after-war West, in fact.
Absolutely. Yes.
Kind of common sense that we had. Where we were young, I mean, my feeling is that probably our leaders did make mistakes, probably, but the general idea was there was some kind of common sense in decision making, pragmatism, not so ideology, and we have to come back to that. It's extremely simple. That's why I think people like the RFK or people like this might be a solution for a country. I mean, it's probably not in the presidential race, but I think probably these kind of people are probably more suited for the current leadership we need. We don't need people who have ideological posture, because the ideology tends to deny the existence of common sense and replace common sense by ideology, and I think it's not good, regardless. Whether it's right or left, it's not the matter. It's just we need to come back to something that makes sense for the people also, because here we are talking here among ourselves, and the people who will watch this are those people who are interested in the conflict and all that. But in fact, there are so many decisions that affect our daily life. It's true in your country, it's true in my country, where we need decision makers who take care of their own people, the simple common sense of the individual. Because when you talk about to people on the streets about this conflict, they don't understand those decisions. For them, it's completely irrational. It's extraterrestrial somehow. We have to come back to something that is more related to our culture, the culture of the West, and I'm a fervent defender of the free market, free enterprise, and freedom of speech, and all that. And this freedom is the guarantee of the predominance of the common sense. The problem is that those who have common sense are now silenced, and we tend to favor the narrative of those who are ideologically motivated, and I think that's wrong.
And I couldn't agree with you more. And I think as long as those folks who have that power in that positions also have, if not power, certainly decisive influence over the major media, which hits most,
exactly,
because there's a relatively small number that gets to our channel here, and I fear that it's going to require some sort of if not collapse, some sort of catastrophic loss or a burn down of the system, so that people can be finally realize that spin is now a recipe for disaster, and only then will they start again listening to common sense like what you're talking here today. Thank you so much for coming on and really providing some extraordinary clarity on the path out of this disaster.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you very much.